Ladies and gentlemen, we have our first ever Clash of the Syndicates. What's up, Vikings Nation, and welcome to the Minnesota Vikings Syndicate. I'm your host, Trey Wicks. Now, before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe as well as the notification bell so that future videos show up in your notification feed. We're trying to get the channel to 400 subs by October 1st. I believe it's very doable. All you have to do is hit that little button that says subscribe. So let's get right into it. The first ever Clash of the Syndicates, and I say that because the Minnesota Vikings are taking on the Detroit Lions. Now, in today's video, you're going to get my preview and takeaway for the Vikings, and we're also going to send it over to the host of the Detroit Lions Syndicate, Derek, as he's going to give us his takeaway and prediction for the Lions as we look to clash this Sunday. So let's send it over to Derek to get his thoughts.
Thank you, Trey, from Minnesota Vikings Syndicate. Both games last year, both on the road and at home, came down to the wire. We lost to Minnesota in Week 4 by a field goal right after the Justin Tucker record-setting kick. Quite deflating for the Detroit Lions. But let's go over some stats real quick, and then I'll give you my prediction near the end. All right, we are at the ESPN Gamecast, and they have the Minnesota Vikings 66% to 33.7 to win this game. Jared Goff, 41 for 71 with 471 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Kirk Cousins, 50 for 78 with 498 yards with 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. DeAndre Swift, 20 carries, 200 yards, 1 TD. Dalvin Cook, 26 carries, 107 yards. Receiving leaders, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 17 receptions, 180 yards with 3 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson, 15 receptions, 232 yards with 2 touchdowns. The Detroit Lions, points per game, 35.5 to 15 for the Vikings. Points allowed, 32.5 and 15.5 for the Minnesota Vikings. Yards per game, Detroit Lions at 421.5, Minnesota 343.0. Passing yards, 235.5 for Detroit and Minnesota 249.0. Rushing yards, 186 to Minnesota's 94. Yards allowed, 442 for Detroit, 433.5 for the Minnesota Vikings. Pass yards allowed, 290 for the Detroit Lions and 296.5 for the Minnesota Vikings. Rushing yards allowed, 152 for Detroit and 137 for the Minnesota Vikings. This game is going to come down to scoring. The Minnesota Vikings have only allowed 15 points per game through the 2 games and have only scored 15 points per game. The Detroit Lions obviously can put up points, but the Minnesota Vikings don't really allow those points. In my opinion, we've got to contain Justin Jefferson. He has over 230 yards so far after 2 games, and we also have to corral Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook eats us up the majority of the time that we play him, so hopefully we can contain that. Early in the season, before the season started, I had the Detroit Lions taking an L in Minnesota. I'm going to flip that. I think the Detroit Lions get this win. I know the Vikings are going to be mad coming off that defeat against the Eagles, but I think the Detroit Lions, they have the taste of winning, and they want to keep that going. I think it's going to be a good game. It might even come down to the wire like it did last year in both games, so we will see.
All right, so here we are back in the Minnesota Vikings Syndicate. Look, we got a couple things to do this week to get a dub over the Detroit Lions. However, it's going to be a tough game regardless, whether you like it or not. It always seems to be close when we take on the Detroit Lions. Like last year, giving them their first win of the season, one of their 3 wins, actually. And let me tell you, that was a sour feeling, or a sour taste in the mouth, basically, to say the least. So for me, we're going to go over 3 keys to victory for the Minnesota Vikings because, look, we need to win this game. Okay, we need to take back the lead of the NFC North, pending on Green Bay and other and Chicago. I guess they're 0-2, so never mind. Or no, they're 1-1. But anyways, we need to take back a division lead against our rivals, the Detroit Lions. So let's start off the bat with my 3 keys to victory. The first one being give Dalvin Cook the ball. We have to give Dalvin the ball this game. Dalvin Cook only had 17 rushing yards last game against the Eagles, where Kirk Cousins actually had 20 and was our leading rusher. Can't have it. Won't have it, and it cannot happen. Plain and simple. Give Dalvin the ball. Make sure he finds holes in that defense or that offensive line so that he has an exceptional day. Look, and it's even more fitting that Detroit has allowed 152 yards per game and 5.07 yards per carry or yards per play so far this season, which actually ranked 26th and 27th respectively. Okay, so that's huge when you're talking about giving Dalvin Cook the ball. He's going to have a heyday, but we have to make sure he stays healthy. We have to create the holes, and we also have to do a couple other things for Dalvin to have a day, but I'm sure he will be just fine. That brings me to my second key to victory, okay? Stop Amon-Ra St. Brown. We have to stop Amon-Ra St. Brown. Plain and simple. This man has been on an absolute tear as of late. Last year, I actually said it a couple times where I really liked what he's bringing to the table. He's going to be a star receiver someday in the NFL. I mean, he's named after a god, okay? Amon-Ra. This man is an absolute beast. He's been on a tear lately, and I can't remember how many straight games he has of 8 or 9 plus receptions. I know it's up there. It's like one of the records for the Detroit Lions. So he's doing well. He's doing exceptionally well. And with our secondary play as of late, which is not consistent, not great, it's okay, but it needs to be better, I'm kind of nervous. I'm nervous that Amon-Ra is just going to have a heyday and ball out. Look, he won that game for Detroit last year when they got their first win of the season because of some blown coverage, okay? Plain and simple, they beat us because of Amon-Ra St. Brown at the end of the game. So we have to stop him, and if not stop him, slow him down so that we don't have a shootout basically at the end of the game. So my last key to victory: protect Kirk Cousins. Okay, we have to protect Kirk Cousins. Give him time in that pocket to make smart decisions and the right decision. Last week against the Philadelphia Eagles, we seen Kirk kind of have like a mental breakdown. Right? He was always taking those unnecessary sacks last season, and I wanted him to change that by throwing the ball away or trying to make a play happen. Last week, he tried way too much of that. Tried doing too much with the ball. He was nervous. It was just a mental breakdown, and that offensive line, when they got in the red zone, couldn't protect Kirk Cousins. The pressure really got there, and we need to put 7 on the board, not 3. Or, better yet, let's not throw an interception, okay? Let's protect Kirk Cousins, give him time to throw the ball, and I think he'll make the right decisions down the field. And we also have to make sure to hit not only Justin Jefferson. Let's get Adam Thielen involved. Let's get Irv Smith involved, KJ Osborne, and Dalvin Cook involved. We need to win this game as much as the Detroit Lions need to win this game, but I will take the Vikings any day of the week. I have the Minnesota Vikings winning this week against the Detroit Lions. I'm not going to predict a score. I do know it's going to be a shootout. It's going to go right to the fourth quarter, probably the final 2 minutes to figure out who comes away victorious. So with that being said, have a great rest of your day. Skol Vikes, and let's get a dub. This is the first clash of the syndicates. Who starts off 1-0? I guess we'll find out come Sunday. So have a great one, and Skol Vikes.